Good day, everyone, and welcome to 3D Experience World 2021, The Freedom to Create. My name is Eric Bright, the Professional Services Manager at Trimix Solutions, and today we're going to be exploring the topic in this presentation of SOLIDWORKS Templates 101, Parts, Assemblies, and Drawings. At the end of this presentation, we will have a Q&A session, so please take notes during the presentation. The agenda for today. We're going to start off with what to do in a pre-template setup environment, what comes with your SOLIDWORKS by default, our tools options, understanding the nuts and bolts of behind the scenes a little bit with SOLIDWORKS, and then getting into the core topic, SOLIDWORKS templates and settings, right? The parts, assemblies, and drawings. Let's get started. Pre-template setup work. What to do before you get started. Metadata, sometimes referred to as the custom properties or attributes, what you need to track in your documents, the important and critical information. This can be items that you're going to use on your drawings or your bill of materials and tracking throughout your organization. Part number, description, material, finish, created date, modeled by, drawn by, cage code, weight. There's several of these you can track. The key is to identify ahead of time what you want to track, where and how, and what information you want to push and pull from maybe your SOLIDWORKS drawings to an ERP or MRP system built in-house. You also want to define the location of where these templates are going to be stored. Is it going to be in a PDM system? Maybe the admin will only have rights to read, write, and then who has access otherwise to make copies or use the original items. Is it a network share? Is it going to be copied to the local machine? These are things you want to work through in either a multi-user environment or a single source environment for your users. The big part, and typically the two items that can be used across the board, is number and description. You need to agree and have a good foundation for what this is going to be called. Part number, part NO, P/N, whatever it might be, you want that to be consistent from your SOLIDWORKS BOM across the board, and the metadata will be tracking in each particular part and assembly, as well as the description. What comes default with SOLIDWORKS? This is important to understand when you install the software for the first time, or even a newer version. What are you getting with the software and core out of the box? By default, there's a novice and an advanced tab that opens when you click on the templates or for new creation of a document. Here you can get the generic part, assembly, and drawing files, or if you click the advanced button, you can open up and get into the more critical part of where you can see all the different file types and different types of templates you have. You need to be mindful of the location. So there are a couple things and paths that I put in here for us. The first item is when you open up and create your templates for the first time, you are setting the units. So just don't click through that. You want to make sure you click and create the same units for the first time you create your templates. The other item is under C program data. Now that by default is a hidden folder. You can either turn that on in your Windows Explorer and go to folder options and show hidden files or folders, or just type in %sign program data, %sign, and then it will pull up that area and you can browse to the templates. These are the core templates that you get with the software. And we're going to talk about how you can use these as well as other templates to create the ones you need to customize or configure for your particular need. Once again, just be mindful of the show hidden folders when you're browsing for the program data location and see what exactly came with the software, whether it's the advanced or on the novice tab. Please explore both. Tools options. Several key things to remember about tools options within SOLIDWORKS. You can get to that from the tools drop-down menu options or the options icon. you want to go in particular to the File Locations section. In this section, you're going to want to watch the path and create a centralized location, which we spoke about earlier, of where you're going to store all of your templates. There are several key templates we're going to be talking about later on in the presentation. Part templates, assembly templates, those are different file types. The file extensions are actually different, and we're going to want to hone in and focus on that when creating our part, assembly, and drawing templates. I put these in here for reference for us to look at later on when we're creating each one in particular. So please keep this handy and we'll move on to the next section. Once again, Tools Options, File Locations. Look under the Document Templates. Will store and create the folder where you need to place your templates, so when you go to create a new SOLIDWORKS document, it automatically will pop up and show the tab within SOLIDWORKS. Parts, assemblies, and drawings. Let's get into the actual template creation now that we have a understanding of some of the foundation work and layout that we need to get started. First, the part template. Probably one of the most critical templates that you'll create within the SOLIDWORKS environment. Where do we get started? Well, the first item is you want to go ahead and open up any current SOLIDWORKS part file. So go ahead and find a part template that you like, or hit new and open up any part file that we want to start with as a foundational point. Next, we want to go into the options of that particular file. So there are two options in there, right? Document properties or system options. You're going to want to go through the document properties and set things like how many decimal places and what unit of measure will items be handled. The document properties is going to be document specific for what we set up and work through. Define the metadata, and the metadata will be in the system information and the properties of that file. You'll want to go through and enter in the part number, description, items that we want to track in the bill of material as a starting point. So we talked about earlier what information you want to track and maybe hand off between systems, ERP, MRP, and so forth. This is where you want to have the information put into the part file as a starting point of what will show up in your bill of material. Now, when you go to save this, you go up to File and Save As, but you're going to pick the drop-down Save As type as Part Templates. That's PRTDOT. It's not going to be the standard SOLIDWORKS file that you're using. So you're going to pick a part template and browse to that location where you've selected, either on the network or on your drive, where everyone will either share, you'll access your templates from. Now, part of this is really defining where you're going to get and put the rest of these templates. So understanding that location is a good part in laying that out. And maybe you're going to have a part ANSI template, and maybe you might want to have one for sheet metal, PVC, for mold injection. Maybe you want to have one for different customers. So you can lay out different templates for different needs at the part level. The other item that you want to be mindful of is when you're working within that property area, there's a drop-down list that you can get exposed to called the custom property file. You're not going to want to delete this, and I put the path in here. It's once again under that program data location, so you'll want to explore this. And this is where you can actually define the metadata list if you wish to. This is part of the template layout, but in essence, there are a couple dozen different properties in the drop-down menu. Sometimes when you do an upgrade, this drop-down menu becomes blank. This is the path we'll want to explore. It's a notepad file. It's a properties.txt, and you can edit that, and I encourage you to explore the location and see what's in that drop-down list. Also, make a copy of that. Don't edit the original when you're working through that. Assembly templates, how to bring it all together. We're going to start off in the same process that we did on the part side. We're going to open any SOLIDWORKS assembly, and instantly we're going to get offered with our first choice of how we want our template to lay out. Start command when creating a new assembly. In other words, when you click New Assembly, do you want to be asked to insert parts right away? There's no right or wrong. It's whatever you prefer. A lot of users turn this off. They want to have the assembly in front of them and drag and drop in files as needed. Next, getting into the options. The options in the document properties, just like with the part file, is very critical. There's one in mind that I really want to focus in on just for a minute, and that's going to be under the document properties and looking at the image quality. Now, there's a setting in the image quality that you can have shaded and draft quality for your resolution. You don't need to have this all the way up. You'll find a good understanding of where you need that by looking at the circular diagram. And as you move that bar to the left and to the right, you'll see it increase or decrease with the quality of the lines on the screen. Doesn't affect the actual model geometry, just the visual presentation. The higher you have it, the larger the input's going to be into your model. Now, the one thing you do want to have is a second one that says apply to all reference document parts. So when you're opening up an assembly, you want to set your resolution there to be pushed to all your parts. So you don't want to open a 200 part assembly and then have it try to calculate the resolution for each individual part and then bring it into the big assembly. You'll have parts that are smooth, that are not smooth, that are octagon in shape or what have you. You want to have that turned on as a suggestion to have all of the documents be active with the correct resolution that you're looking at. Moving on. Define the metadata, right? Like in the part file, this will propagate through part number, description, material, whatever you're tracking at that point. You may want to have it tracked here at the assembly level, vendor, cage code, manufactured, purchased. Lastly, you're going to want to save this assembly template. Now, it is not a standard assembly path that you would save right out of SOLIDWORKS. It's actually ASM.dot is the file extension. So you're going to want to do File, Save As, and save that once you've set your options and defined your metadata and the resolution and so forth into the same location where the part file was that you defined earlier that we spoke about. Drawing templates. There is a lot more to do when creating drawing templates. They have more options and settings than part and assembly templates combined. Let's take a closer look. So when we start getting into drawing templates, we're going to reference this slide a couple times. Let's take a look at that. It's a critical one to understand the two components that make up a drawing template we're going to be engaging on today. The first one is the actual drawing template itself, which is a DRW.dot file extension, and the second extension is a sheet format, SLD.drt. Both have critical components that we'll be dealing with and we'll be exploring in just a minute. There are also other reference ones you'll want to keep in mind, a revision block, bill of materials, items of that nature that we'll deal with in drawing templates. First, the drawing template itself, DRW.dot. This is going to contain your document properties tab, right? In the properties section, you're going to go through just like you would in creating a part or assembly, look at the properties associated with that document. This would also include a layer of the revision block as well. You're going to want to make sure to hone in on fonts, dimension standards and styles, line weights and fonts, as well as arrowheads and any predefined views you want to have in that particular document. Next is the drawing sheet format, which is the SLD.drt. The geometry and notes that make up the drawing title block. These are going to be the critical parts that you'll see when you go into edit and format your drawing title block, and all of the ink, if you would, that's on the paper. That's the easiest way to think of everything that you'll be editing with the drawing sheet format. Once again, back to this slide. Our drawing templates are made of two major components: drawing template, DRW-DOT, and a sheet format, SLD-DRT. Well, let's start the process and bring it together and define what's going to be included in our drawing template. First, we're going to open any drawing that we like or desired size, whether it's a B size ANSI, a landscape, or portrait, whatever drawing you want, just like you would for the part or assembly. Open up the appropriate starting point file that you want to use. Next, we're going to want to go in and define our first or third angle. This is going to be the standard for your 3-view projection. We have our first angle, right, is used over in Europe, and our third angle is here in the US, that you'll have the top, front, and right, along with the ISO projection that you want to be using. Next, define the metadata. We're going to touch base with this in a couple minutes and talk about the metadata that you want to track on the drawing itself. This metadata is going to be different than the metadata you track on the part or assembly. There are properties associated in particular with the drawing that are not going to be the same as the part or assembly metadata that you're going to track. Next, you're going to want to configure the links on the drawing to know how to pull that in, the properties that you're going to get on the drawing or on the part or assembly. Once again, like we said, there are different properties you're going to use to propagate your drawing title block, and they could be coming from the drawing or the model and assembly. And we're going to touch base on two key areas and phrases you're going to want to learn in order to really grasp this concept and get it down. How do we save this and make the template to show up in our common location where we're storing our folders? And then it will show up on the tab in SOLIDWORKS, right? We're going to want to first save the sheet format at SLD-DRT in a common file name. So maybe we want to do ANSI B sheet metal, right? And then we want to do the same thing in a file save as the drawing template. But we want to save both the sheet format and a drawing template. And this is a nice shortcut. So when you click B size and you go to save that template, it automatically will open up the correct format and template for you at the same time. But wait, what? There's more, right? Let's get into this because we talk about the edit sheet format and the properties. How do we go about creating all this? Well, there are two parts to the drawing that when you're actively in it, you'll want to go through and edit and work on. One is the edit sheet format, and this is where you'll do no work that will be dimension related or model related. This will be all your title block setup. So in here, you'll go and right click and edit sheet format, and you'll get into the lines turning a different color. You'll see your text. You can edit it. You can lay out your logo. Do not put a logo that is several megs large. Very lightweight logo if you're going to put it in here. And then you do all your work on the edit sheet format where you'll have things like the BOM and your model views and your drawings. And you want to set up your title block to automatically propagate in the metadata you're going to define to pull from the drawing or the part or assembly. The two items I can't stress enough that you need to get a good grip on to make this work for you is $PRP, in the example here, description, and $PRP sheet description. The $PRP on the top will pull the description from the drawing. The $PRP description will pull it from the model inserted on that drawing sheet. Now, there are different use cases for pulling a property from the drawing than it would be the model. Let's explore that. So here we have a simple example of properties on a drawing that would be associated with that particular drawing, and then also that model, that assembly, has properties as well. There are some examples there that you can come back to and reference. $PRP description, part number, maybe the file name, the description off the sheet. But that syntax is going to be common no matter what you're using for the property, but the $PRP or $PRP sheet. So first, let's talk about $PRP sheet. This is going to pull the property from the assembly and put it into the drawing itself. So I'm in drawing edit sheet format, and here I have $PRP sheet description. So it's going to pull the description from the model that's inserted into that particular drawing. You could also have things like part number and so forth on there. So once again, I am mapping here the property from the assembly into the drawing. Next, maybe we want to take the drawing is going to have properties that we're going to want to put on the drawing title block, like drawn by, approved by date, engineering approval, quality, manufacturing. So there are things that you're going to want to track on the drawing which may not be part of the model. This is all laying out the definition of what is mapping and where on your drawing template. Once again, the two major areas you're going to want to remember to map out in this case is $PRP is pulling information from the current drawing sheet that you would have defined and putting it in the drawing title block. The two items to take away, if you take away nothing else in the drawing section, is $PRP and $PRP sheet. I would definitely explore this and look at the options of how the two can work together and pull from one item to the next. Well, that's going to wrap up our section here, guys, on SOLIDWORKS Templates 101, Parts, Assemblies, and Drawings. And now we'd like to open the floor for questions, or if I can show anything in particular, please let me know. Once again, I appreciate your time. Please email me if you have any questions that I can answer or help you with. Otherwise, have a great rest of the conference here at 3D Experience World 2021. Thank you.